Hello everybody, welcome to Relove Guitars. It's nearly Christmas and I've not been on camera for a little while. I've had a couple of down weeks, as in off weeks, as in not that much doing on camera, a few things going on, but yeah, mostly kind of taking the opportunity to catch up on a bit of energy laps and levels and do whatever I can at home, which has been kind of handy that I can do that really. And it's tied in with things like getting a new car and bits and bobs. But anyway, we've got a couple running up to Christmas. One of them here is James's Jackson. It's a custom shop. I don't know if they call it custom shop, but it's one of the top Jacksons. It's crafted in Korea. One of these beauties. Anyway, it's a through neck. Look at that, delish, beautiful finish, gold hardware, a neck, you know, with pickups, tuner spread that I don't like personally, but it's contained by the locking nut, which is okay. And we've got a Floyd Rose here and a couple of little issues with that to come back to, but beautiful wood grain and a fantastic sort of just dusky sort of burst to it. Very subtle, showing most of the features of the grain, so it's absolutely gorgeous. Now, I've done a tiny little couple of things before we kick off here, and you probably, I kick myself really because I should have probably just done them on camera and started. But so the guitar came to me with a very high action set to begin with, and the bridge was set right up on its two posts, and it came with James saying he just couldn't get it for some reason. Something had changed and he couldn't get it to work, and so he put the action right up there, and it was really tall. And when we sighted down the neck, I could see there's a bit of you know, an interesting shape down that neck. Now, I did say that I might try and get some photographs of it, but I'll try and do that maybe after this, or later on at home, because the actual response of the neck under load will still be the same, so we don't expect anything to change there. But so what I did was, instead of, I think like a lot of people, I'm no different. When I look at, oh no, a Floyd Rose, oh no, this super duper custom shoppy, top of the range model, this should really be behaving beautifully well, and now it's not even playable. So I sort of, you can risk getting slightly overawed. So I sort of told myself to just go back to first principles. And the thing about that means, I looked at the action. I thought, what do I always do? Well, I put the action back to where I want it, whether the guitar currently plays like that or not. I go back to where I want it. This end's fixed by the nut, but certainly go back to the action I want at this end. And the way I did that is I slackened the strings off. I put a little wedge under here, softwood wedge under there to hold it level. And I took the action back down to where I wanted it, and a combination of gently tightening a little bit of tension on these two strings so I could check my basic action here, a little bit of tightening down to the height I wanted it, and then I was able to release the little wedge and tighten it up. So I'm roughly approximately in tune. And I've got it at the angle, with the height, the playing action I wanted. Now the first thing I did after that, or the first thing occurred to me was let's put you over here, it's not a very good view probably. Played it, okay. There's a few things rattling and buzzing. Now, I thought, well, okay. So I thought, is that really that unfamiliar to me? Well, no, it's not. What do I look at next? Let's look at the relief. And lo and behold, the relief is dead flat. In fact, it's not only dead flat, it's probably slightly backbowed. So the action at where I want it isn't showing absolute catastrophic frets. And that's the first thing to say. They're struggling a bit, but I intend to do a precision fret leveling, and I'm just at this point. I'm just trying to work out if there's something wrong with this that's substantially different from anything else that I've known. So we have this guitar with what I would call a dead flat neck. So, or actually probably backbowed, slightly backbowed. So what I'm going to do at this point then is I'm going to put my adjuster in and I'm going to go counterclockwise a little bit. And this is a slightly difficult one to get back out. We don't have much room around these strings. Probably could use a slightly shorter thingy along there. We'll try this one. Might need a longer one. Yeah, it's difficult to go around the strings when they're there, but we can just about wiggle it. So I'm just gonna dial. It's a bit, as you can see, it's a little bit sort of, it's very tight access, and in some ways you'd be better off, I'd be better off taking, I've loosened these off. Oh, sorry, I'm shouting at you. I'm right up by the iPhone. So I can take that cap off, that locking cap off for a minute, and I could probably put that over there just for a second, just give me a little bit more access to making the adjustment I want. So I need a clean bite with this here thing, and you can see that the basic combination of the length of it and the reach I've got don't really want to give me a clean bite, nor does possibly going in this way might do. Yeah, I get a bit more of a bite at it there. Okay, so now I've done a couple of eighths of a turn. I'm going to put this back on the correct way, and I just want it on. They're loose, so I don't want them done up tightly, so they're just staying on so they don't fall off. Now I'm going to get the tuner and tune it up again. How far can you see down there? Just give it a sort of relative tuning. Okay, it's playing. Now let's check the relief. Well, the tiniest amount of relief. Okay, so I think we need a tiny bit more. Let me just double check this is a good one to do it with probably, but just want to check never remember what this one is. Oh, it's an 8. No, I don't want to do an imperial one. Good golly, no. Stay away. I'll stick with this business. Let's use one of these again, and I'll use the opposite way around. Okay, so we're at a slack point on this particular kind of truss rod, and I'm going to hope that it gives it a little bit of positive bend in the opposite direction now, because the strings aren't doing it. So let's have a look. A tiny bit. Now I'm hearing just a little bit of zinging here, which the notes are sort of sitaring very slightly. I don't know what's causing that. What I do know, first of all, is that I think the pickups are at this proper action, are too close to the strings. We don't really want them that close, so I'm going to train them back down a little bit. For now, we can come back up if we wish, but just a bit. Rule of thumb is there's no set rule. That's the infuriating bit. The closer they are to the strings, the more output, but the less tonal dynamic, right up to the point where if they're very close to the strings, you'll get odd effects. Now, the back part of this, the underside part of this tremolo, feels to me to be loose, so I think we're going to have to do something at the back there. I did it up. Oh, yeah, look, it's doing a strange pullback, even when that's not moving. So that's not happy. I'm going to tighten it from the back. But what I can tell is that that's playing okay. The first fret action currently is probably a little higher than I would ideally like, but the only way to change that when we've done it is to check and see if there are shims underneath here and remove them if there are, underneath the locking nut, and if not, than to sand down the underside of the locking nut part. Probably better than planing the shelf, because that's very hard to keep flat, whereas it's much easier to sand the block a little bit off the block to keep it flat. But now we've got a slight change in playing action now. All right, so I've just gone a little bit higher with that change in relief. So as before, what I'll do, I need to go down a bit. So I'm going to take the power, the stress thingy out of the thingies. Oops, I've got to put in my little wooden block. It's a soft wood block, and I'm just leaving it there. I want it just to sit horizontal, just while I slack off this pressure. Now I do this because so many people are afraid and absolutely convinced that if you adjust the height of these, or the position of these posts under load, you destroy the faces of the whatnot. Now I'm not convinced you do. Now I've just done a bit of turning there. As you can see, that was random. Okay, and I'm going to do this back up. Unfortunately, you have to do this by trial and error. And you can see that ultimately the final setup here is very much a combination of the three parts: the last fret action, the relief in the neck, and the first fret action. And those three things together will add up to the overall feel, and you have to really take care of adjusting them all at once. So this is still a fraction over 150. I'll just go down a tiny bit here, and while it's still loose, and we go in this one, that's a bit over 125, so I'm going to go a tiny bit down here as well, and then I'll tune back up. Okay, and then we'll get it. The idea is to get it in at pitch in a playing configuration that is the right height and the right neck curvature. Doesn't matter if the frets won't comply at this point in time. Ooh, that's sitaring. Just do one more time with this one. This doesn't have to be precise at this point. Okay, let's call that, there you go, falls out. Let's call that my target. Horizontal plate on the bridge, which is good. We're just on the 125 over there, props a tiny smidgen more. So when the strings are off a bit later on, we can go down sort of a eighth of a turn clockwise on the treble side, 1/8 turn clockwise on the treble post. Okay, just to get it exactly where I want it, giving all things else, all else being the way I want it. So look at the relief, tiny bit, but enough. Now, what I want to now check is I've got the playing action I want. I know that fret leveling can make a pretty big impact on getting rid of some of this fret slap, but what I want to do is I want to check these individual rattly or sitari notes. So we've got at this end the opportunity to lock down these caps, and I can see that the strings are spreading out the back here, and you can lock them down pretty tightly. But the question is whether it's going to hold off the stop the sitaring noise. Some guitars that use Floyd Roses have a tensioning bar here to make sure that the angle of the strings is absolutely perfect going up the locking nut. I don't really know if that's the case here. Okay, so something not quite right about the angle of these strings, and I know that because tightening these locking nut caps up is making this all go sharp. We don't really want that. It shouldn't do that. That's sharp. So the reason why some guitars have a locking nut here, if I can get this to start that again. I don't know how I managed to switch that off, but I did. Okay, so right, the strings come up this slope of this locking block. Can you see it? So the slope, there's the horizontal, and there's the slope going up there. If the strings are dead on that slope, then when you screw these in, they won't get pressed down any further. If they're slightly above the slope, then when you lock these down, they will by definition go sharp, which is what's happening. Most manufacturers, many manufacturers get away with that, get around that, I should say, by putting a tensioning bar in here, behind there, where my screwdriver thing is now, and they tension it down until the strings are exactly at that correct angle, which means when you tap these down, tighten these down, the strings are already touching the slope of the block, the nut block, and as a result they don't tighten up anymore. This will, without that retainer bar, which it wasn't designed to have, unfortunately, the downside of this is it will always go, when you tune it up and you lock these down, it will always be over tight. So you have to tune up to under pitch to try and guess it. And since you've only got these little fellas down here to work with, it's going to be a difficult task, I'm afraid. That's really stupid, I have to say. So a solution would be, in the long term, put a retainer bar, although I'm actually not entirely sure, given the spread of these strings, what retainer bar exactly would do it. It'd have to be probably a custom made one. So in the meantime, I guess what I'll try and show you is what I would do as a fallback. So I take these off, slack them off. Now, what did I say? First of all, I'm going to take all of these micro tuners at the back out for a second, maximum stretch, and go in 2 quick turns, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Right, that's my starting position for those. Then I'm going to tune all of this up. Right, that's all at pitch. Now I'm going to down tune them all. Now I'm going to lock them up, which is a pretty naff way to have to do it. I don't expect them to be in tune after this, because I down tuned them by a random amount. I could do it by a number of cents with the tuner if I wanted to be really clever. Let's test this. Well, let's see now. Back to the tuner. Pretty good guess. Okay, that's good. We've got that guessed. Not the way we'd want to do it, because it means that, James, you have to remember it every time you change the strings. I'll have a look and I'll practically design a retainer bar for this and see if there is one out in the world. But in the meantime, we've also got what I think is an unacceptably frazzly noise going on. I can't immediately tell you where that sound is coming from. I'll try and poke it with something to see if we can press down. I won't do it. I'm not sure what will. Let's see if we can press down right where the string touches the thingy. That won't get in the corner. Something pointy, I guess. I'll have to do. I don't want a really sharp one though, so I'm going to bust it. Maybe this will. Maybe that will. Flattish. So I'm trying to find this. Now, it's very difficult now at this point to figure out what, if anything, is causing that slight zizzle. It could be anything loose in the bridge, the tremolo part that's loose. It could be the truss rod might be a little bit loose. I don't think it's, I think these are coming over, well, what we don't know is whether there's a slope in this angle or in this slot here. When we, sorry about the moving around, you look at that slot, the way, let's take for example where the high E goes in. Let's try and get where we can hold it in one place and see it. Okay, so you see where the high E goes in. For this string to ring properly, that needs to be sloping backwards down towards the back of the headstock, and I can't see any way. I don't really get a strong idea that either that or the B string are sloping backwards very much. I mean, they may well be. In fact, the B looks like it might do. The high E looks like it's going off sideways, which it is, which is why it doesn't look very good. But you know, the clamping locking nut here is not whatever, if it's supposed to give this thing a launch point off the very front of the what do you call it, that thing, then it's not doing it. I don't think it's doing it, but that's why we've got that slight zizz. And the only way around that, I'm afraid, would be to replace it with one of a dependable quality that we can absolutely guarantee has a backward slope. Because if this is just horizontal, and like I say, short of I really don't think there's any measurement way. I can't even if I get down to this level here and I get absolutely way up close, something like, sorry about this, I'm just trying to get my best look, get some sort of look at the way those strings go through. I mean, I might have to zoom in on those, but unless those go past that, over that edge with a backwards slope struck downwards tilt with some break angle, that's why these strings will sitar a little bit, as they're currently doing. Now let me just zoom out before we all go crazy. What we could also find, a way of telling that obviously, is to road test capoing it, because theoretically, if if we take this nut out of the equation and concentrate on or replace it with a fret like so, we have this sound. Let's try and get an ear full of better. Don't worry about that. Yeah, I think this nut block is substandard, I'm afraid. It's we know it's not ideal because it should have, it really, to be precise, it absolutely does need this. Okay, let's put it another way. If you're going to do away with this retainer bar, this has to be super mathematically precise, which I can tell you it isn't. It's a bog standard one. I mean, you know, okay, of a decent Floyd Rose quality, but it's covered in a chrome material, which itself isn't even smooth. It's not even flat, so it has a kind of, the actual surface is not even flat. But I can not swear that that is going backwards over that front edge. And you know, let's sort of make it very clear that if we have a nut, don't fall off there, you. So there's a typical Les Paul style nut. And then we have actually, it comes up and it kind of, there's the slot, and the string kind of comes in here and goes over that and comes off the top there like so. Okay, and it's not the greatest drawing, but there's just wound string, for example, and it comes off the top, and then we know that it goes into the slot, but it bends around like so. But what's critical is that we know that this point here is a distinct jump off point. In other words, it's definitely not flat like this for any distance. If the nut is a flat slot, what the heck was that? I don't know whether that's something here or something somewhere else. Oh, spooky. Yeah, so if when you get a nut, occasionally you get a nut, and what you find is that the slot is cut like so inside the nut, right? And what you get is a string that comes up, and it comes up, and then it goes, bends like that, and then goes out like that. And the last thing you need is a string following a flat path, because here the string doesn't know where its start point is. See that? It could be anywhere. It'll try and make it the front, but all it takes is the tiniest little imperfection. Let's say, for example, the slot looked like that, right? Then the launch off point will be there instead of the front, and the whole of the intonation will be wrong. All right, so the nut slots are critical for all kinds of things, all kinds of reasons, tuning stability, but also for making the basic sounding note in the first place. So we've got this thing that, let's put it another way. How do I put it? So when we have, let's imagine that we've got a nut here, front of a nut, and it looks a bit like that. And then we've got let's call this the slot for the low E string, right? And often it doesn't look quite like that. Let's say quite often it looks like more like this, right, on the slot. And it means that it's been cut backwards down a bit, and then it runs out a bit there. So you've got that kind of V. And what happens is, of course, as your string comes up, touches in there, rolls over and comes right off the top of that. And it ensures that the launch point is there. And actually it's a very relatively small, because that curve is curving backwards, that slot is curving backwards, it really is a patch like that, which is the contact point of the string, only there. On a bad nut where the slot is cut flat all the way through, obviously the string comes up, goes in there, and as I just did in the previous picture, it sits there nicely, but your problem is either your contact point is all the way along there, or worse, if the slot is tilting forward, it turns the contact point back to there and it completely messes up the intonation. When it's here, it just deadens the string. It's like it doesn't sound great at all. So what you really want is to imagine that the front of the nut is a thin section that you've got to make sure the string comes up and over that, and it only wants to touch there, not anywhere else. And I think these strings are sitaring because these slots on this device here, why is this so dark? Please lighten up. The strings on this device, or the slots on this device here, are crude. And they're not only crude, if we can just improve, lighting has gone absolutely mental on this thing. Let's do a quick drawing of the nut here. So we've got this weird thing where we've got a bit there and a bit there and a bit there and a bit there and a bit there, and it comes up there, it goes to there, sorry, get rid of that, it goes to there, and so on and so forth. It goes down there, it comes a bit there and comes up there, down there, top and so on. You can see what I'm trying to draw is it's like the castle wall with V notches there and there. But the thickness from front to back, first of all, I'm concerned that this surface here is not tilted back, which it must be, right? Or either that or incredibly thin. So it is both. It has two problems. It's thick, and it's also not sloped, I don't think, from what I can see. And those two things together are what making it zing. Okay, and that's separate from the issue of the strings not touching the slots, and the fact that when you put the locking nuts down, they push the whole thing sharp. That's a different problem altogether, but it's not helped by this problem here. So I think we've got, I'm not entirely sure there is a more precise unit in the world. Another way you could do it is to file these backwards some way. I would be more tempted to find another one that happens to be better made and put it on, but that means experimenting here in this case with a couple of gold ones. And if you bought a Floyd Rose gold one, you'd be spending 30-40 quid. If you got a cheap one, you'd be spending peanuts, but waiting for it to come from AliExpress, and it might be rubbish as well. So I'm going to have to leave that sounding that little bit of zingy, I'm afraid, because can't really fix it. I don't understand this lighting in this thing. I'm trying to make this work. Oh well, I'm going to have to trust it's the right lighting. So what I need to do with this now is to get on with the precision fret leveling. We've got the action near where I want it. I'm going to mark up the frets. It's going to be a little bit difficult because I haven't taken off all the strings again, so I'm going to have to pull them around to do the marking. But the idea now is to make, since I know the action's almost where I want it, with a tiny exception of that high E side of the bridge, I'm going to come down a little bit, but by and large it's where I want it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just mark off these frets with my marker pen, masking pen, you know what I mean. And then I'm going to precision level the frets with this playing action set as I want it. But you can see that discovering a few little things to consider as we go, like the retainer bar behind the Floyd Rose. I have to say, I didn't know what I really didn't know what the retainer bar was on guitars that had Floyd Roses. I thought since the Floyd Rose locking nut locked them down, I thought it was a complete duplication or redundancy, until somebody kindly pointed out the limits of my knowledge, and that showed me that it was a way of making sure the strings lay at the correct angle, i.e. they laid flat against the slopes of the nut before the locking nuts tightened down. And you can see the effect, we've seen tonight, the effect of what happens if you don't have that thing there. And as I said to you, you could negate that by having a very precisely milled and constructed locking nut, which guaranteed, just in combination with where it sits on the headstock, it absolutely guaranteed that it would hold those strings already against the slopes of the nut, so that there was nothing to press down when you put the caps on. However, we've seen that in reality it doesn't do that, and so it sends it sharp. So right now I'm going to go with I'm going to tread on some ply. I'm going to now get ready to precision level this guitar, and this, funnily enough, will probably seem like the speedy bit compared to the discussion of evaluating everything beforehand. So it's, even though it's a through neck, we're controlling it with a truss rod as much as we can. We're treating it exactly like any other neck. There's nothing special about a through neck that means we wouldn't treat it just like any other neck. Now, the only special thing that you might say that it does differently is that it may behave slightly differently under load compared to a bolt-on neck. In other words, a bolt-on neck is a little congested around the heel section where it goes into the body. This one probably won't be so. It's not being crushed into place. Depending on the length of the truss rod, it'll be less effective in the glued in part here. Sorry, yeah, it's not glued in. Well, it is glued in. It's got the wings glued to it, but it should be more responsive. Now, why it's got a slight bump that we looked at down the end, I don't know, and we'll find out by this process of fret leveling now what the actual topography of the neck is, which is quite interesting because that's what this process does really well. So typically the first pass with the fret leveling tool is what gives me the indication of where the bumps and humps are on the guitar neck like this. So I'm looking to calibrate this to, still a bit too overcurved. I'm looking to calibrate this basically to the curve in the neck as it stands, and that's about right there. So I'll work with that on the first and second tracks. Now I haven't got any means to I'd have to take these off while I'm doing this. That's okay, because I just want to push the strings out the way one at a time when I'm doing the leveling. So this doesn't change the tension or the compression on the neck. So yeah, I'm looking at this. It's a bit of a crudely made, gold chromed piece of kit. There's nothing over precious about it, and it needs to be tilted backwards. And we can look at it much closer once we've got the strings off after the leveling. But if we look at it and we can't see an angle in those nuts, and actually, you know what? This is curved, not flat. Yeah. Well, actually, either which way, this needs to be pressed down. That's the thing. It needs no. What I can see here. Let's see if you can see it. What I can see here is at the back of this. You can see quite clearly, actually. So the back of that. Look at all that space underneath each of those. And what happens is when the locking cap comes down, it'll press that down to there. Now notice the front doesn't go anywhere because it's already touching, but the locking cap will tighten the string up by that much each time. You see that? And really, we want to start, before we lock the strings, we want the string to be lying like that with no further tensioning. And for that to happen, it has to be tightened down here outside. In fact, it has to be done quite severely outside to the degree of that. And that will require a locking bar, retaining bar of some kind. So that's where we need them to be, like that, not like that. So that's guaranteed to put all the strings out of tune. You can see how high they are? Terrible. So that's one problem solved. But as you can see, James, you can get around that crudely by slightly detuning, and we could experiment a bit later with how much detuning, but some detuning is necessary before we lock them down to overcome this problem. So it's not a showstopper. Okay, so now we're going to do the first track, as I call it, the E track, And I'm just going to lightly go over this with the banana tool, as I named it. And I'm expecting it to reveal to me the sort of significantly high and low spots of this neck as it is currently under pretty much fully strung load, although obviously the high E is pulled off to one side, as you can no doubt see. But we've got an interesting topography already showing up. So let's see if you can see it. Come on now. Oh my Lord. I want to zoom, please. This is bizarre. It's reverting to the lighting setting. Okay, not much cutting, a little bit. Cutting more, cutting quite a lot, barely cutting. So that's a low spot right there. Cutting more, cutting a little bit, not so much, hardly any, none. That's a trench. This whole section here is a trench, it's a pit. And then look at this, straight to the next one, massively high by comparison. So we come straight out of a pit to a high, or to a hill, and then high, or cutting, barely cutting, not cutting. So the last three aren't. So we've got a number of zones on here. Low at the end, 3 frets, low here, 5 or 6 frets. Okay, 1 low fret down here. So this is the wiggly bit that we can see down the neck, this whole area here. And it is tangible. And what it means is quite literally, this area here translates into a valley. And you'll see it looking down the neck, and that'll come up, and there'll be a little downer at the end as well. So you've got down, up, down, big valley, up again, a tiny drop down like a sharp valley, and then back up to a flat spot, or flat, hopefully flat area. So there's a lot of change in that, which is not fantastic for a top premium guitar. But I'm not going to be too critical, because the truth of the matter is that even the best guitar builders like this quality guitar can't predict that. They get the best wood they can. I mean, they can help by buying different kinds of timber and whatever, and using multi-section pieces like they've done here, a three-piece neck, through neck. But even then, it's not so much twisting you can the multi-part laminate necks and the better quality cuts of wood will stop them naturally twisting. But what you can't predict in any piece of wood is how it behaves under compression. And this is what we're seeing about this neck under compression does this roller coaster. Now, what I'm doing here is, you probably think, well, all of those notes seem to play okay, and that's true. And I don't want to level until there's nout left, because obviously I'm always at all times mindful of fret material. But from experience, I'm just doing a tiny bit more, because the second little go on this tells me about the extent of these hills and valleys that I spoke about. If we kind of reveal that suddenly we're now cutting where we weren't cutting before, then it says that the extent of the hill or the valley that produced the effect before isn't as great as all that, which is fine. It's just reassuring to know, and we can carry on with that extra bit of knowledge. We've still got a low one there. We've still got 4 or 5 low ones here. We've got a high one straight after there. Good set after all the same sort of height, cutting nicely, and then a very low 3 at the end. So it's still showing that basic shape, which is okay. We know what we're dealing with, and it's playing okay. Now, let me just show you something else. This is a really lousy, actually, construction. Look closely into there. What is that? That's supposed to be a slot, isn't it? I don't know what that's supposed to be. A slot to help the string. But you know what? It doesn't look like a slot, and there isn't one next door, really, by comparison. It looks like the seabed or something. Let's move them sideways. So let's look back at the same. So there's a bit of a well, it's gloopy. Can you see that? It's not accurate. It's certainly very organic looking. There's a sort of an attempt at a bit of a recess or a notch or a slot, but it doesn't continue the same length for both of them. It's crude. It's not exactly what I would call engineered, if that's what it's meant to be. And the truth is, I don't think you want it to be that. You want it to be pressing the string flat against that. That actually sticks up. So it's not, sorry, that sticks up. It's not even a notch that's any use. That sticks up and probably stops the thing locking down a bit properly too. So that's crap. All round, that is a shite piece of engineering, I'm afraid. You can see it's most imprecise. And the same applies all the way across. There's nothing precise about this at all. Despite the fact it will cost you a bomb. And then the question is, really, how flat or how tilted back is any of that relative to the rest of the fingerboard? And I would suggest it's not even close to being tilted back, which is why we've got that bit of zinging, sitaring, and it's also not helped, but not created directly by the fact that the strings aren't sitting flat against the, what you call it, that thing, whatever it is, you know what I mean, the locking nut piece of junk. Anyway, I don't mean to be rude about that, but it is, when you look up close, suddenly these things that everyone's going shrieking about precision of operation turn out to be, you know, about as, you know, they look like they've been made in a Zimbabwean village with a, you know, a cold chisel and a hammer. You know, and I'm not knocking people who do engineering in Zimbabwean villages, because they do an amazing job often with no tools at all. But, you know, at least they don't pretend they're full of exotic tools and precise instruments. Here, this is a bit of a deceptive. I mean, I don't know what. Well, I do know what that part would cost you to buy. I can give you an approximation, but getting yourself another string tree from Floyd Rose, whoever sells them, that would probably cost you about 30 or 40 pounds. Now, for example, I've probably got a locking nut sitting around in here. Maybe I haven't anymore. Maybe I used them all up. I might have used them all up along the way. But if I had a locking nut in here, I mean, there's a crude version of it, but that one has curved surface to roll the string over, and it has a curved cap. This one has a curved surface, the strings are sticking up a mile, and it has a straight, oh no, it's got a cap that isn't curved in the same amount as it's attempted to be a very slight curve, but it's not in the same amount as the surface here. So it's not even that accurate. So you could, well, I guess what I'm saying is I don't have a single like for like. I've probably thrown a ton of them away since I don't ever use them these days. Oh, here's a cheap one. So this is from an AliExpress type thing somewhere. I'm going to keep my eye on the battery power of this thing. Oh my goodness! Open that, would you? It's not exactly what we're looking for. So it's yeah, it's a little bit different, but you know, it's made in China, AliExpress. It's a sort of a bit like that. It doesn't have a curve. It kind of puts the strings in a straight line, and then you clamp down on this. But actually, it's no better or worse. If I just drop that off, really, does the same thing. In fact, if anything, the surfaces, the what do they call it, powder coated surfaces in there, are cleaner than that sort of messy, scrunched up chrome stuff over there. And then we've got this thing that goes in one particular way, and it squeezes down on the strings. It doesn't try to be an exact curve or anything like that. It just grabs the strings and presses them down. And that's peanuts from AliExpress, but actually it's no less sophisticated than this thing here. And I could probably, if I had to replace this has a little adjustable, in fact this is even better, it has an adjustable set of grub screws on the front, which can give you a custom action. So, you know, we could even, for fun, replace this one just for 5 minutes when we get this finished the fret leveling, and see if that improves the tone of the sound, just by being a cheap alternative. So I'm going to put that off to one side, and we'll do that for fun, because I just hate the fact that Floyd Rose and Goto and whoever will sell you those pieces will charge an absolute fortune for it, and it is as crude as a thingy and a thingy. There you are. Okay, so now I've done my E and my B string, so now I'm going to recalibrate for the G and see where we go from there. So I don't know what you can see. Sorry about, yeah, you're all right, long shot. Let's see, usually stays pretty much the same all the way across, but we're a little bit over curved there, so I'll just take a tiny bit of the grip off this truss rod now, and we should be back into a little bit flatter, which should calibrate perfectly like so. Now we're doing the G, so I'll just pull that off to one side a little bit. It's under pressure, so it keeps loading on the neck as well, which is just as well. And so we can now, we sort of already know something of the topography of this neck. We know it's one low spot there. We know there's a low crop up here from 11 to about 16. And then we've got 3 at the end, which are noticeably low as well. I won't go into the whole thing about low frets and high frets, but suffice to say that when your playing action is being limited by low frets, it's because a low fret makes the next fret effectively high, whether it is or not. So your action is limited, your playing action is limited actually more by the low frets than it is by the high frets on your neck, which is kind of bizarre in some ways. People kind of think fret leveling is all about leveling high frets, and in truth it's often about evening out the difference between low frets and the next frets on, which are often normal or apparently high relative to the low bunch. And that's all you can do. You just have to minimize the variation between the low ones and the high ones to make them play better. So here we are, let's try the G. Right, we've got all the bends are choke free. It's a little, no, actually it's bang on the height. It's a tiny fraction more, but that's about the target action we want. Of course, these are now open, so they've gone out of tune because we've taken the locking caps off. It's not too bad. So no bends, no chokes on bends, very good. So we just carry on. We don't have to clear there's no chokes on the G track, as I call it, when you come across into the G track like that. No chokes there. So we are good to go. I will use the same calibration for this next track, the D track, and we will calibrate again for the A. Now when I'm over on this side, what I find that I'm doing is, yes, I'm doing some leveling if the undulation that we've seen already in this neck also translates across to this side of it. We need to do some leveling in order to balance that out as well, which is what I'm doing here. But also there's an aspect of leveling on the bass side, which is, it's all part of the same leveling, but in a way it's a separate issue, and that is that the bass strings by definition move more because they're thicker and tend to be looser, is it? I can't remember. Anyway, they move more pound for pound. So they, for a low action, they are likely to hit the frets quicker than the thinner strings, which don't move so much. So down at this end, at the bass side of the fingerboard with the neck, we need to be prepared to take a little bit more material. That's good. Fine. Now you hear a little bit of, yeah, that 14th fret, 12th to 14th, which is coincidentally, that's the low spot. And that's what you'd expect to hear is when I'm fretting in a ditch into that 4 or 5 fret low spot, suddenly these frets become high and the big wound string is striking those frets. It's not one fret, it's just whatever's after there gets in the way until I get past it to the higher plateau. So 12th to 14th, okay, let's calibrate it and let's remove that little bit of hiccup on the 12th to the 14th with a bit of precision fret leveling. This is what's really nice to be able to watch or see happening in real time. Again, we're spot on the calibration, so don't need to adjust it. And now we're going to free up this little spot here. So we tackle it like the whole thing. We're going to make sure we just try and just kiss all of the frets a little bit. And as we sort of do, we can come up and we're thinking about this end where we know that 12 to 14 are low, so we're not expecting to be cutting them with the sandpaper right now, but what we're expecting is to be cutting the ones immediately afterwards, because they're the ones that are getting in the way when we fret down in that ditch. And that's what this is all about. Now, none of this you could do with a standard fret leveling process where you take the strings off and you make the neck flat and use a fret rocker. It doesn't work, you can't do it. Have to be under load and compression like this. Tiny bit, but improved muchly. So I'll do, for my own peace of mind, I'll do a fraction more, but that's pretty much cleared up that, what I would call fret slap at that end. And so I'm just going to concentrate. Really, I'm just doing a bit more at that end, thinking, looking at and pressing a little bit over the 12th to the 14th fret. And what we're really doing is taking a tiny bit more off the 15th, 16th, 17th in order to free up all the notes that are trying to play out of a ditch up here. So that will have cleaned. I don't need to check that because I know it will have improved that. Now we're going to use the same calibration now for the low E. That's kind of trying to fall off altogether. I never get it with these angled guitars, honestly. Now I'm expecting this to have the same problems as the A, possibly a little bit more. So I'm going to level it the same way as we did the A, which is to kind of do it all over and then focus a bit on the 12 to 14 and beyond, because we expect that to be getting in the way and causing some fret slap. The bit that you can't get out of a bottle is the experience of knowing how much your tool is taking away and when to stop. And that really is a experience-based thing. And that's what you pick up from trial and error and doing it over time. Okay, so we now put that back on. Beautiful tuning. You don't really need to be in tune, but anyway, let's do it. Okay, I'm happy with that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just look in the back here. I can't get to the tremolo thing, so we're going to have to take that off in a second, which is okay. We'll we'll remember where we are. So what I'm going to do, ladies and gents, I'm going to, oh, I need to block off my trim for the time being until we take the whatchamacallums out. Springers. So taking off the pressure off the stretch, pull off the strings. Oh, no, tell you what were we going to do? We were going to have a little experiment, weren't we? Let's have a little experiment. I should probably put the battery, the phone on charge. Let's go, let's take this right off the strings, right off to the side. We were going to do a little game by changing over the locking nut, weren't we? See if we can use something better. That's not going to be the thing. Right, these are held on by two little gold screws that don't feel that good to me, but they're a bit worn as well, so you have to be very careful. They've been scrunched badly in their time. So this is how that comes off. We've got two little shims on the outer sides, which is fine. We don't want to lower it any, because with our new action, that's all jolly good. So we can take a look at these shims and we can see that they're pointing outwards. Put them there, and we'll put them there. That's interesting. That doesn't really work, but that works. Well, that's not quite the same way around, but that'll have to do. So there's the two shims. Now what we were going to play with is how does that fit on there? Ooh. That's the back, that's the top, that's the front. Well, yeah, not quite what we wanted. That's got a lifted bit at the back, which we don't want. Be better almost if it was that way around, but it won't be. So I could cheat for my own purpose. I don't care about this thing, so I'm going to do a little cheat. You're not going to see what I'm doing, so look away. I'm actually going to grind this bit off. I just want to use a flat, get a flat thing. So I'm going to check on the size of grub screw, and then I'm going to move that out the way too. There we go. No, that's not the right size. Verdammt, Schweinhund. Try this one. No, perhaps not. Perhaps this one. More likely. Okay. These cute little AliExpress things, they've got, they've thought about them. That's what I like. I thought, well, why don't we give them some adjustability to raise and lower this without putting shims underneath? Yeah, that would be a great idea. So just keep watching from a distance, and I'm going to go and grind off, if I can, this bit. This is going to take a minute, and I should probably use this moment to recharge while I'm doing that. So back with you in a second. So quick, by the way, I abandoned that attempt. I would have to screw it did work, by the way. I took off the little thing, and actually I could have dialed up the thing to the right height, but I would have had to cut some new holes to screw it in place, because the sideways force on that bleeding nut is horrific, thanks to the terrible construction of the headstock. Now, my concern at this point in time is the movement, the slack in this thing. I really don't like. Oh God, that's looking knackered to me. Maybe we can get it tightened up. Let's hope we can. There should be a hex key that fits in there. It does this up, but it was loose before then. Let's try a couple of these hex keys and see what we've got. Will you fit? Will you fit? No. Will you fit? Sorry, it's terrible. View? Non-existent view. Now what I can't tell is what's in there. Let's have a look, shall we? Nothing. So that's why it's not working. It's missing something. That's what keeps it on. Just is that right? Okay, maybe I'm just missing it slightly. Maybe it requires this hex just to, no, that's not even that one. Something to tie that onto there, because that's what was loose. It was off, and it was allowing the whole thing to roll around. Actually, what it was doing was this. You can't even see it now, but anyway. So it was allowing it to move, but so we need that to be tightened on there. But it has to be done up with something, and presumably that's going to have to be a hex key of some kind. But it's not. Oh, it's that one, isn't it? Right. So that's all. Just tighten it up with that. Oh, beautiful. Done. There you go. I didn't realise that was that simple. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I suppose we might as well keep sort of running for the time being. Don't have a very good perch for a minute. Let's sort of put you there for a second. What I've got to do now, what I want to do now, is to get this back on board in its strung in state. So that means I have to get it there, flip it over, and offer up its wonderful springs, if you can see that. So I'm going 3 space 1. That's where it came from, how it was. So first one, oh, don't need to do much thinking because it's not going to be under pressure until, oh, this is hard to do, until, I don't know why they do this. They're always off, the spring always has them off to one side. That doesn't want to go in there. Like that. Goes in there, but it wants to twist around, so it doesn't really want to grip onto that without it coming out. My God, is that annoying. So on its own, it doesn't really want to go onto there unless I put it in there and pull it, and that's why it's hoiking it out in a funny pattern. So I just gently put that in there like so. It's a bit further in than I need, but I just want it to hold it in place while I attach these fellows. That's nowhere near. Anyway, it's also slightly uneven where the screws are in the back, but that's where we've got to, so I want, oh my God, that's so hard to do. Blimey. Stormy out there tonight. There we go. All in, and one spare one, no, one at the end. Again, have to twist it and then try and push it down into the hole. Like so. So even in full operation, this is the springs are bending around in a shape of some sorts, but hey, that will do. Right, now what we can do is just check out this. That's better. Okay, let's just put this under there again, gently. Take that off there. All right, good. That's that bit done. Let's get rid of the fret leveling bits and bobs for a minute. Let us, can you come down this end for a minute without getting tangled up? Let us come down here and we'll put this back together again. So we had a little thin bit along the edge there, and a little thin bit doing a similar shape on the edge here. That's fine. Then we had this grim thing. I don't know what we could do with that, really. Well, we know what the problem is. We should get another one, but we need a retaining bar of some sort. Right, here's our screws. Sorry, hand in the way. here, but you won't be in the way. So this one doesn't even look like it's very very happily in place. It doesn't sit very comfortably all the way in. That's as good as they'll go. Okay, we still have that issue to worry about afterwards with the thingy, you know what I mean. Okay, I'm just going to go like that for a minute, keeping us plugged in. I might do this bit like so, because that way we won't worry about running out of battery, which is normally what happens. Okay, so this bit's boring anyway, and I'll probably cut the camera off after a while. So what I'm going to do now is we're first of all going to recrown the frets, and then once I've recrowned them, we're going to polish them out. So I'll probably just leave it like so. I don't need it up on the block. So first thing I do is, having leveled the frets now, I go over them all with the marker pen, and then I'll be using the StewMac Diamond Offset crowning file 300 grit version, and I'll be using that to recrown these frets so that wherever there's a flatted area on them, which is naturally what you get when you do fret leveling, we will round it off and make it curved again, or arch shaped. So I don't know how well you can see, but we'll go with the jumbo fret side of things, and we go across here, and I can see how much or little I need to do quite quickly. The aim is to cut off or round off the edges of the flat spots, so that we get back to being a nice arch shape. But we need to do it whilst keeping the thinnest possible line of black marker pen down the centre of the fret, and that will tell us that we haven't adjusted the peak of the fret anymore, which means the relative levelness that we've achieved that works with this guitar strung up with these 10s under load. We know that it will still be in tune. It'll still be level when we reload the guitar with strings and put it up to full normal pitch. So I can see that here a couple of frets have done a fair bit of leveling on, so they were quite high at this side on the bass side of things. So I have to do a little bit more work to get that rounded off, particularly on that one, not so much on these others, but that one was particularly high. Anyway, so the first couple of weeks have gone by with our new car, new in inverted commas. The funny part was I've had some disasters. The first couple being, within a day of buying it, one of the dials on the climate control side of things fell through. I could tell it was not fitted properly, or it was something was broken, and it was coming forward, which it shouldn't do, and it was trying to kind of drop back in a bit, and then eventually I didn't know what was going on with it. I prodded it too much, or just handling it really, and it fell back through behind the fascia. I can still see it, and I can click it on and off if necessary at a push, and it doesn't stop the car running, but yeah, so that's a bit disappointing. That was obviously broken before, but so I bought a replacement whole panel with the 3 different knobs in, because it may well be that the fascia itself is broken rather than the clips, or both. So either the one of 3 instruments has its clips broken, and so you potentially could take a new version of that instrument, or that control, that dial, out of the one I bought from the unit I bought from the scrap merchant, or we could replace the whole thing if it's easier, since all 3 of them from the scrappy should work and are properly attached, so that's good. Anyway, that's going to cost me about 100 quid in labour. I did research how to do it myself, but I literally couldn't get the start of the unclipping of the various panels that you have to get off to get access to the radio panel, which has to come out the way first, and then to the heating climate control panel. And if you live and breathe that stuff every day, you wouldn't be frightened of it, but I am, because I certainly don't want to get in there and start breaking off lugs and have the whole of the fascia dangling off. So I thought we're just going to have to pay for somebody to do it. So that's about 150 quid down. So cancelled out the plus of getting new tyres with the car, and 2 new tyres. And yeah, and so anyway, we kind of had to accept that. And then the next thing was a couple of days later, suddenly the ABS warning light came on. And I've sort of tested the brakes and stuff, you know, in operation, and there was nothing evidently wrong, and the light was intermittent, so it went out shortly, not long after. So it's not exactly the end of the world type of situation. So I've got an eye on it, and if necessary, I guess we'll go to a garage. But to do it, that would have been a whole day leaving at our normal garage. You know, a whole day, pick it up at the end of the day, and for all I know, well, I mean, it could be anything from a bit of, you know, magnetic crud in the sensors to mud to frayed wires to some fault in the ABS itself, or the, you know, the drums or calipers or whatever could be knackered, or the sensors could be broken. So, you know, it's an open wallet type of situation. So I think until it's a permanent feature, I think I'm going to just avoid it somewhat anyway. So yeah, so that's the 2 things that have gone wrong. And then at a parish council meeting the other day, I came out, it was terrible weather and it was dark, and I waited running the engine. Claire and I had been to the meeting together, and we were sitting there, and the parish hall car park has sensor-driven lighting, and when that's off, it's pitch black. And so it was filthy weather, pitch black. I sat there watching all the other cars' headlights go, and it was pitch black, nothing around. So I thought, right, it's time to move off, and I put my lights on, and we went forward, and I turned as we went forward, and I turned too soon, because I didn't know for the life of me that somebody's car was a low sports car, Audi TT, was parked to the right of me, and the owner was standing, who was another parish councillor, or another councillor, was standing off to the side chatting in the dark, in the pitch black, to a couple of people from the village. And so that's why I had assumed he'd gone. And yeah, so next thing, I had to spend most of the next day in insurance claim land, which was an absolute pain in the backside, as you can imagine. So thankfully we had protected no claims and blah de blah, so it's not the end of the world, but not good. So I'm now driving like a proper old man at 62. I'm driving like I'm 75. Suddenly feeling nervous that I'm going to pranging it every which way I go. All bits are going to be falling off. It's just the way it is with older cars, isn't it? You can never be sure they're going to hold together. Anyway, so while I'm blethering away about that, you can see I'm masking off this neck, ready to polish out these frets. And once I've done that, I will give it a dust over and a clean, and then we'll go into restringing mode. Oh damn, that's got in the way of that. Yeah, we'll restring, we'll clean up and oil the neck, and then we'll restring. And we'll stretch the strings, get it up to pitch, and then I'm afraid we're going to have to do the down tune and set the microtuners based on what we know happened last time, so that we can get it locked down and be as close to in tune from the moment we lock down as possible, because otherwise you end up using all your micro tuner scope for yeah, trying to get it into tune, which is an absolute pain, because then before you know it, you run out of micro tuning possibilities. And so there's a couple of things I always say about the micro tuners is it's important on any guitar to stretch the strings out thoroughly before you play, or before you take it out and play with friends and whatever. But it's even more important to do so when you've got a Floyd Rose, because if you don't, the Floyd Rose, if it's got lots of slack in it, you will be constantly undoing those locking nuts at the end, and then these frets are quite high. That's not actually seated very well. I'm not going to mess with them now. They are where they are. Yeah, so you want to stretch. It's so important to stretch the strings out for that and a load of other reasons. But certainly, if you don't want to be running out of micro tuner adjustment and then having to slack off those locking nuts, detune, reset the micro tuners, go back into micro tuning territory, run out of micro tuning scope again, undo everything again, tune it up on the tuner pegs, and then reset the micro tuners, get it tuned, go back, do it again. It's an absolute pain. So the more stretching you do before you lock it down, the better it's going to be. Yeah, notwithstanding that we do really, I think this guitar should have a retainer bar. Otherwise you're going to have to be guessing. Well, I'm afraid James, you're going to have to be guessing the amount of detuning. Well, when it comes to it with the new strings, I will do it with a tuner. We'll try and tell you the number of cents approximately that you need to tune under when you come to do it, and that'll be about as good as I can get. But it's a pity. But yeah, maybe looking for a better quality headpiece, locking nut. I just can't believe how crude those things really are, and people pay an absolute ton of money for them because they can. And there is a myth that, oh yeah, these are absolute precision objects made by the Germans. It's a Schaller, it's a Goto, and whoever made this Floyd Rose, it's a lousy, cheap locking nut. There's absolutely nothing about it that's any better quality than the AliExpress one I pulled out earlier on. Slightly different in design, but in terms of the essential construction, there's nothing better about the Floyd Rose one, which is a real shame to have to say. Okay, so I'm going to put some of these across some of those, not that one I won't. And so what I'm going to do off camera in a second, I'm going to sand and polish out all these frets, which is a noisy, tiresome exercise, and it's boring, and you can see it on many other videos, and it's just a blur of noisy polishing. And then when we come back on, I will be ready to put new strings on, and we'll stretch them, get them set up as best we can, and then we'll get into fine-tuning them and checking the intonation. While I'm at it, the intonation doesn't look bad here. It's pretty much on the spot, so I'm not going to do anything to it unless I thought it was off. I'm going to check that once we've got new strings on. Okay, so yeah, done the recrowning. Now it's time to sand it out. I'll stop, let this charge, and location accuracy, turning on Wi-Fi. What the hell's that all about? See, I didn't need accuracy. iPhone storage is full. Thanks a bunch. Okay, see you in a minute. Well, I'm still struggling with my iPhone. Frankly, I just cannot work it out how to make it not store every picture that I've ever had. I'm definitely a boomer. I have no idea how to properly manage the memory. So let's just forget that. So frets leveled, action set the way we want it. We need now to load up strings, stretch them out and be ready to go. So we fire them up. Elixirs. Let's hope these are the genuine real McCoys. So elixirs, some people like to put the what you call it, put the ball end at the tuner end, but we'll go and put it on this end here. So I'm going to need a few things to help me do that. I'm going to need to be able to use the tremolo a bit. I need to have my thingy here, wrong size, this one, and I need to get good crunching fitment to my strings here, and that requires an absolutely massively tight grab to do. Not the best thing in the world. So I'm going to put them all on at the bottom end and then we'll sort it out, tighten them up at the other end. So in case of snipping them all off at the ball. I don't know why I'm putting those at that end. Yes, so unfortunately not able to get the phone working. I think I've switched off iPhone sync. The problem is I want to be able to put pictures from my phone to an online library so that I don't have to clog up either my hard disk or my phone with photos. I want it to be an album, and I cannot seem to get it to do that. It seems to insist on telling me I have to have it, if I have it in cloud, I also have to have it on my phone as well, which I don't want. So I just get nowhere each time. And I look at, people say, well, watch this video, it'll tell you how to do it. And I watch such and such video, and it's useless. I cannot make sense of it. It speaks in foreign languages. And I think I'm just wasting my time and anyone who I ask's time. Anyway, so I'm afraid I've kind of accepted that not only do I keep on losing every time my computer dies and I have to get another one, I never manage to keep old photographs because they're never stored properly anywhere and they get lost each time, unless I save them as like an Apple photo library and put them on a hard disk. That's about the only way I think that I keep a copy. But so I think I've managed to do that with the last pile of things. But what's really annoying is that they become unavailable as oh, come on, please cut that, thank you. They become unavailable in day-to-day life, you know, which is, of course you don't want all your photos forever everywhere available, but somehow the whole point of photos when I was a youngster was that they were available for you to look at now and then, at least now and then. But when you have them stored as a sealed iPhotos library file, it's no good. It'll do me no good. I can't see them. I might as well not have them. And if I have to basically reload the entire library in order to see them. It seems completely nuts. Okay, so with this, we need to wind some on. So I'm going to pull back a string's worth and wind it on, because if we don't use the which way am I going around? Let's go around this way. If I don't use the ball end, then I have to wind some on. So I'm sort of treating it like it's a normal one, but it's sort of upside down-ish. No, wait a minute. This, what the hell's going on here? Which way am I going to tune this? Oh my God, I can't remember. I think I'm going to need to come in from this side, aren't I? It can't work unless it's that way around. Otherwise that E will be a mile off. Blimey. upside down? Yeah, sort of. I mean, outside of that, you prefer it. Which one's going to be the biggest? Oh, boy. I don't get it. I'm going to be going upside down. That's bizarre. I could have done this the wrong way round. Ah, why is that? I didn't even think of checking up on the last one. Up to here, back hole, one hole, one. I really should use the automatic winder upper since I've got one, and that's what I've charged the darn phone up for. Not the phone, the screwdriver. Okay. So my natural tendency is to run it that way, but I guess you only know when you have one of these left-handed headstock underslung tuners, and it's only then you realise that you're not used to it that way. How weird. Okay, back one fret, wind on, hold it. Oh, come on. Okay, well, we're nearly there. So I think we need to be looking for a better quality locking nut and retainer bar, which I'll sort of measure when I'm home. I'll measure up what's needed and sort of assess the spacing required. So the important thing is, once you get the strings back on, is to tune it up to pitch. You'll release the lock, and then we'll stretch the strings out, and then we will check the intonation as a last thing in line. Hold on, come back, you. So, of all the strings, the high E has got the least pull. I'm not sure. Is that right? Well, we shall have to redo it if it isn't. One, two, 3, 4, 5, 6. All those strings in packaging in a bin. Okay, so I'm going to get this to fall back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to aim for getting just a basic tuning again off the tuning thing, fork. this would normally, should be right where it is. I should tune it up first, slacken it off first. Hang on, let's go backwards a minute in time. Slack off mate. What I need to do is start off with a flat plate. So I get the plate and I put it flat like so with my thingy, and now I use this to tune up like so. That's interesting. That's the same position of the springs. Same springs, same gauge of strings. Ah, were they 9s? May well have been. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to what am I going to do? Help. Okay, let's try this again. That's moved, which is a bit odd. Let's just get this positioned flat. Let's get this tightened up a bit. That's weird how that's changed. It's the 1046, maybe the last ones weren't. So I'm just going to tighten this up a little bit now. So we're going to go to a flat line there, and we're going to try and tune it up just as a flat or a hardtail. Right, that's got it in just about balanced as it happens. Ah, but it isn't, is it? It isn't, is it? Let's see if we can get it to where I need to be. That's almost there. Thankfully, we're just about there. Now that has taken into account heavier gauge strings, I think, because they couldn't have been exactly the same pull as the ones. Maybe it's only a little tiny bit different, but there seems to be some small difference. Okay. Now what I'm going to do before I do any locking down is I'm going to come out, full out with all the tuner, the little micro tuners out to the full extent, and then 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 in. Then get some stretching done. Yeah. Get some stretching done. I wonder if we can. I hate Floyd roses. Do you know that? I absolutely detest them. That is courtesy of the Floyd Rose not gripping enough. I mean, honestly, you have to crunch it up. Is it even the right way around? It should be the right way around. crunch it up, hold it on. Maybe I'm going to try a different hex key altogether for a bit more grip, but not good. Hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it, hate, hate Floyd roses that do that. There are a million better designs of tremolo. Well, not a million, there are some better designs of tremolo, including ones that use the ball end down at this end. I had a Yamaha SC500 that did that. Now, you're supposed to be able to stretch this out. Don't need those darn things coming out. In fact, I probably should just run along and tighten these up with a better hex key, just to make sure we don't get that happen again. But it's brute force. I think it's the worst, clumsiest system that money can buy. I hate it, hate it, hate it. Right, leave it there. So the idea is, providing you can do that without your stupid thing pinging off, is to go through all of your strings and stretch them out several times, thumbs and forefingers, until you get rid of all the slack. And then when all the slack is gone, you tune them up a tiny bit low, and we'll plug it in and use a tuner to try and guess how much low, and then try and lock it down. How bizarre. We know that's going to go sharp. It might be difficult actually to put a yeah, it would, no, we should be able to do it. We'd have to go over the plate like that, but right, do one more stretching. It seems to be fairly stable, which is often a good thing with strings like elixirs. They can be more stable out of the packet than regular strings. Same happens, by the way, with the XL, NYXL D'Addario strings. It seems to me that they act as if they're ready stretched. I don't know if they can be, but they seem to take a lot less stretching, physical stretching, to settle down. So that's my limited experience with them. So probably just give that a couple more goes. Don't like that. Purely stylish that Jackson tilted the headstock that way. I know it means a lot to metal players. I'm going to sneeze. It means a lot to players of metal, fans of metal, but it makes a physical, I mean a mechanical engineering nightmare really. So I think what we need to do is to tune it with a tuner, register how sharp it goes, and then use that reading as a way of presetting it lower. Okay, That's the best thing we can do. So here we are. Let's try it. I don't need to rest on that much. I hate resting on that, but let's do it. Let's have some volume. Okay, so there's our best tuning to get going with, and then we will attach, fit our locking caps locks, and then we will clamp them down, and then we'll look at the tightness of each one, or the pitch of each one. You can probably tell already. And then we'll record it, and then we'll say that's what you've got to set flat in order to hit the mark each time you change the strings, if you don't install a string retainer bar to take that slack out. Okay, so let's write this down. I'll take a picture of it in a minute. D-A-E. Okay. So that's interesting. So that one. That's very interesting. At this point only the E has gone that much sharp this time. So I don't think this is really going to be worth playing games with. If that's gone that sharp, we want to lower it. I don't know how it's going to behave this time. It doesn't even really line up with the string very well. So let's try and tune it. You're not A, you're E. You're not E. You're B. You're sharp of D. You're sharp of A. Fine. We're pretty much there. Let's just check. What's happened to the action finally? We're still. We're a smidgen above with this configuration. Add a heavier strings. Damn it! Right, here we go. Down again. Down again. Would you believe this? Right. Right, let's put the thing in for a second. So now I'm going to step back in time because I want to take these down a tiny bit. Would have believed it. Right. So with our new slightly extra weight on the strings, we've got that, and we've got a bit of that, and we should be there. Okay, that's that and that's that. So now we want to go back to our start point again with our thingy tuners, and we want to go 1, 2, 1, 2. Why is that one so stiff? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That's great. And then we want to tune this up. Well, we should get tuned up without. Well, it should go okay. We used a tuner. Okay, so we know that the low E comes up quite a lot. So come up, take that out. Down with the E. You know it's going to go up. Close it off. It really does need a bar to press those down before you clamp them up. And then we go see if you're going sharp now, again, damn it. So it's not consistent, that's the other thing. Okay, 125, 150. We're done. Phew. I think it's running a bit late now, but thank you for watching. We have our recommendations. String retainer bar to stabilize that. Otherwise, it's going to be a guesswork, a little bit of unhelpful guesswork or unpleasant guesswork every time we come to put new strings in, which is a bit of a pain in the what's it. So that's what we have to do, and it's because it's missing that. So at home I will measure out a size of a bar that's needed, and if necessary we'd have to think of making it out of brass. Not at all impossible to do, just a strip of a little bar of brass with a couple of screws in either side. But again, that's all down to whether you want to fit such a thing. We're done. Anyway, I know, James, you're on holiday right now, so it won't be the top of your agenda, but we'll talk about that when you get back. So, thank you for watching, everyone. Sorry about the camera thing. I hope it's sorted out next time. See you soon.